Now, a couple months ago I started filming e-bike content, and the best way I found to film such content is to strap the remote for my electric longboard onto the top handle of my camera. It's pretty great from a footage standpoint. It looks really cool, like hand holding footage but then at speed, and I had full control over what I was doing. And my plan for actually, saving the camera was to chuck it in the bush and hopefully that would survive. Considering the impact actually bended the cage of my camera, which is really quite impressive. I'm quite shocked that the lens survived. This is the Sigma 17-40. Instead, what happened is I hit the curb of the road and it kind of tilted. E-board went flying that way and I had absolutely zero time to recover from any of that. Something I don't understand though is that these displays aren't just magnetically connected to the outside. You can just flip them off and they become an external display straight away. Went straight into pavement, my hand was underneath me and the camera was just like... Dude, I love it when something needs fixing, and today we're fixing that entire situation because I can't lose any more cameras. I think the main reason I actually already crashed is because I had that in my head the entire time. I had built an alternative and that alternative was this. It was just fucking horrible. And that's mostly because the only thing I was using was a vibration isolator, which usually you'd put these on a car to account for the vibrations of the motor itself, right? And I already knew that this was going to happen, so I did buy the Pro Aim Airwave V5. And the thing is, in most of my research, I came to the conclusion that these things just would not work on a bike. Cars just operate very differently, and having one of these things on a bike, you have different types of movements. Like you're tilting all of the time, going through corners is completely different, and the bike is also fighting the isolation somehow because it has its own suspension. Now the bike I'm using for this project is the Fido T2. It's the fattest fat bike that I've ever seen. I sent it over for the prior video. If you haven't seen that one yet, you should definitely check it out. It's also the project where I crashed and my camera died. Now to connect that stabilization system we need some tubes, and the best that I've found are these scaffolding tubes which are 42mm in diameter. And to actually connect these to the bike, I came up with this system where we'll just like shove a threaded rod through the entire tube itself, and at the bottom I have a cheese plate, and that actually connects to the frame of the bike. In terms of mounting, this situation is really quite strong because it's connected directly to the bike, and that minimizes a lot of the additional vibrations and weird movements that you could get by making a more standard mount on this thing, right? I also gave it a cross brace, so that gives it more rigidity and it stops flexing, and it's also kind of a safety mechanism so it doesn't snap off and kill the camera again. Now in my first test run you can see that the footage isn't too great. As soon as I go over a little bump, the camera keeps swaying, and it's just at the back there doing this. What's happening here is that the stem for the Ronin gimbal is a little bit too long, and with that length comes a lot of rotational movement. We need to fix that. So this is the small rig power supply base plate that connects to the Ronin gimbal and has a little thread mount at the bottom which decreases the length of the gimbal in general, and this is usually what they use to mount these things onto stabilization systems and also some other strange rigs. Now we could have just connected that plate to it and called it a day. That would be totally fine. This system works, but it's also limited in a lot of regards, right? It's limited to this bike, it's limited in height, and those are some of the things that I wanted to solve. So I went to Shaper3D, my go-to CAD software on the iPad. A lot of people in the comment section keep asking me about it. I've always left a link in the description down below for Shaper3D, so you can check it out over there. My goal for this is to create a system which is easy to take off of this bike and mount it onto a different bike or something else entirely, without too much modification. You created a larger version of a cheese plate and made it into a sail. Pretty much, yeah. And that's where PCBWay comes in, the sponsor of this video. I don't have any sheet metal fabricating tools at home, and I would really like to make these out of metal so they're extra strong. So I uploaded the files to PCBWay's website. I chose the material and the quantity. You get an instant quote for what that's going to cost. A couple days later it arrived in my mailbox, and you can see that the quality here is also really quite decent. Now PCBWay also offers a lot of other prototyping services ranging from PCB production and assembly, CNC machining, injection molding and 3D printing. So definitely check them out. I left the link in the description down below. Now these plates can just be connected to the rear of this bike without any additional pieces, but I did make some grooves in the design itself, and that's where I would like some TPU pieces to sit in place that we can 3D print. I don't actually have any TPU, so I just printed it in carbon fiber reinforced PLA, and that seemed to work quite alright as well. That's clearly not the most well thought through design. I mean, I probably could have come up with something a little bit more clever than this, but if it works, then it's totally fine. And we just bolt everything together. I basically have this long threaded rod, shove that into the base plate, put an extra tube around it, and then I added the mid sections and the top segment. And the mid sections are there so we can actually extend the entire thing to a little bit longer than 1 meter. I don't recommend extending it to longer than 1 meter because it's on a bike and it's going to be really heavy and really difficult to keep that bike straight if you hang a gimbal up there, right? After that we can put the hinge in place. This is actually from some aluminium extrusion, so it's also made out of metal and it fits the color theme as well. And this is there to connect the cross brace, and this will also allow the cross brace to move essentially until you bolt it down. And that makes it more universal in terms of where you can mount this stuff. I did do some testing without a cross brace at all, and that worked out totally fine when it was connected to the bike itself. But you just don't have any safety mechanisms, right? If you hang a little cord onto it, it's still going to drag the camera with you if it snaps off. So I tried to make everything doubled up, everything has a backup, and hopefully that way we won't lose any cameras anymore. As for the cross brace segment, we basically have the same hinging mechanism at the back and then connected to a smaller plate, and that is also connected a little further up in the rack system. So I put that cross brace in place. It's basically a M10 threaded rod, and just bolted it from both sides until it's under tension. After that I put the Airwave V5 on there and the V-mount battery plate on the top of the Airwave V5, and of course now we also have that shorter stem, so that really helps with the sway as well. I've also been thinking of upgrading to that little joystick system which is wireless from SmallRig, and then that way I can control the system a little bit better. In terms of actual vibration isolation, this system worked okay. Like there's still some vibrations coming into the camera, but my main concern is how difficult it is to operate. I'm essentially entirely relying on the active track feature and the autofocus on my camera, and I can't actually select the autofocus point on my camera when it's at the back of my bike. You know, when you compare this to standing on an e-board and just being able to adjust the height, adjust the camera angle and tap the focus, it just makes it very difficult to do things in this way now. But it does save cameras.